Hello, everybody out there. This is Ann Thompson, and welcome to the newest edition of Medfield People. My guest today is someone that probably many of you have seen. His wife you've seen as a crossing guard, but Bill Mann was our police chief for how many years, Bill?
20.
20 years. From what years?
1969 to 1989.
69 to 89. And what selectman appointed you? Wasn't me.
Harry Kelleher, Walter Frank, and Larry Abar.
Oh my God, I hadn't thought of Larry Abar in a long time. Good for you to remember that. And before that, you were a policeman here, but why the heck did you ever become a policeman? I've often wondered why people
Why did
do
I
that.
want to be one?
Why did you want to be a policeman?
You know, that's a good question. I took the exam before I went in the Army in 1950. I took the exam, and the written part was simple, but you had to pass the physical strength test, and I was 259, and you had to run and jump and climb the rope, and I failed that. So when I went into the Army, I went, oddly enough, into the military police and spent 5.5 years in the military police. So that kind of whetted my appetite for police work. I got some pretty good training in there, and when I came back and I was still in the Army, I was stationed in Boston my last 2 years, and I took the exam there, and I trained for it, and I passed it okay. So then I eventually got on.
Were you afraid of
1959.
Were you afraid taking the test?
Afraid of it?
Nervous?
No, there were certain things I couldn't do. At that time, you had to climb a rope hand over hand, and I could not do that. So I had to make sure I passed everything else. A swim was simple. Jumping over a vertical jump was kind of hard.
Yeah, that would be for me.
A broad jump I could get the minimum, and lifting weights was no problem. You had to climb a ladder and carry a body down, and I could 125 pounds. Yes.
Wow.
And
I
could do that all right.
I assume it was a mannequin, not a real body.
Right, it was a mannequin. But I had to train real hard to make the run in a certain number of minutes. It was and it happened to be in the Cambridge Y, and it was a small track, so you had to do 8 laps, I believe it was, and it was almost getting dizzy. You're up on a balcony type thing and running around and around in that track, and it wasn't the same as running on the same Medfield's track down here. That would have been easier, really.
So 8 laps was 1 mile?
Well, I don't remember the distance, quite frankly, but whatever it was, I had to do it. I'm going by memory from years ago, but I think it was 8 laps. And by the time I finished, I collapsed on the ground, and they said, "You made it." Yeah.
And while you were in the military police, you met a certain lady in Germany, I understand.
Yes, I did. And that's what kept me in the Army so long. I was drafted in November of '50 for a 21-month term in the Korean situation. We trained as a group, as a military police group in Indiana, and then we went over as a whole battalion. And I met Elizabeth. You could how did they call it? You could extend for 9 months, and then you wouldn't have to do any reserve time when you get out. Otherwise, you had to do 5 years of reserve time. So I extended for 9 months, and then the paperwork was so all-encompassing. I mean, you had to go through every little thing and to get, Germany was the enemy, and so they wanted to make sure this person that you're bringing to this country is clean. And so I had to go through so much paperwork, so I just re-enlisted for 3 more years. I said, because I didn't want to go home and have her come afterwards. I didn't think that was good. And it turned out real well, because we flew we had a child over there, and we flew as a family. Mm-hmm. So it worked out great. So we got over here, but I still had a couple of years to do in the Army. So.
Well, your family was probably German anyway. Isn't Mann a German name?
Yeah.
And
way back. Yeah.
Well, and how about the other German names? Are all mixed up like most families?
Mann?
Yeah. No. What other?
Oh, my wife. My mother was Swedish.
Oh, okay.
My middle name is Hansen.
I didn't know that. William H. All the years
William
I saw
Hansen
William
Mann,
H. Mann, I never knew what your middle name was.
Yeah, and when I retired, Nancy, the town clerk,
Preston?
Nancy Preston made up a birth certificate or something. Oh, I know what it was. They took one of the boxes out of the square that we used to use, and they didn't need them anymore. So Chief Hurley had them take a box out of there, and they painted my name on it, and inadvertently they painted William A. Mann.
Oh,
And so Nancy Preston made up a birth certificate, changing my
I never knew the
changing my
story.
middle initial to A. But of course they redid the sign. They redid the box for me instead and put an H on there.
I remember the box.
Yeah,
I do remember the box.
that was comical.
Wow. I remember Nancy Preston, too. She was a good friend of mine.
Yeah, she was an EMT. She worked for me. Yeah.
But her kids were friendly with my kids. Our two
Yeah.
daughters went to college down at Penn together, and her boys played sports with my kids. So
Yeah,
a lot of good memories. But she was a good town clerk. She really was. She was dedicated to this town.
absolutely. Yeah.
As you are, I think. You ever going to leave this town?
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
someday. I'll be going down or up. I don't know.
Yeah, but if you go down, you're going to stay right here in
Oh,
the
okay.
cemetery, right?
Yes, I have my lot
Oh, you do. Okay.
overlooking the Charles. I wanted it overlooking the Charles. It's so pretty down there.
So you can go for a swim. Kind of weird to think of being in a cemetery, though. That
Yeah.
way, it's very weird.
Yeah.
So how come you ran for police chief? How come you applied for that?
Well, let's go back to the start. I went on the force at 1959,
Okay.
and I was 32 years old. And a friend of mine here said, "Congratulations, you'll be the police chief in 10 years."
Who said that?
Mike Stanley.
Oh, did he really?
Mike was in the Army with me.
I know that. Oh,
And-
that is funny.
I said, "Sure, the police chief's 33 and I'm 32. Yeah, I'm sure going to be the..." And circumstances happened that they needed a police chief, and so three of us took the exam. I happened to get the high mark, and I always think it was the best of a bad lot. I don't think they wanted the other two, and they didn't want me, but I convinced them that I could do the job. So I had no education, I wouldn't get the job now. I had no education. All I had was a GED.
Okay. Oh, from high school. You
I
never
had
even
a
had a high school
GED
degree?
from
That's
the
right.
Army.
That's right. We talked about that.
But I had a lot of training in the Army, say with police work and intelligence work, and it's beneficial to me, even though the Army had a different type of system. So I ended up getting it
But now
and
they're-
taking a loss in pay.
Oh, did you really?
Well, I was working part-time,
Oh, okay.
and I'm the only person in my era in the Medfield Police Department that never got an hour overtime. Anytime you worked extra, you got straight time.
Oh, jeepers. Is that right?
And then when I became the chief, the labor, whatever it's
Union,
called,
yeah.
federal said, somebody works over 40 hours, you must pay them time and a half. Well, I never got that all those years that I worked. So it was interesting. So I didn't have any education. I didn't go to college. I went to courses. I went to many courses and on different subjects.
Mm-hmm.
So I call it the school of hard knocks that I went to.
I guess it was.
And I say I wouldn't stand a chance of getting to be a police chief now with no master's degree, no bachelor's degree, or nothing.
Yeah, I'm not sure how valuable those degrees would be to somebody being a very good police
I had
chief.
mixed emotions about it because what I saw, the people that were overtrained and sometimes they were afraid to make a move. Sometimes you've got to be aggressive as a cop. You've got to honor your own instincts and go after things, and we had some good ones that way, and without training. And sometimes the ones with training, they learn, be careful of this, you'll get sued, blah blah blah, and call for backup, which is not a bad thing, but they're afraid to make a move, and I think it has an adverse effect on the police work that you do sometimes.
Yeah, I always thought one of your strengths as a police chief was the fact you knew the kids. You went to I saw you at soccer games. I saw you at football games. I saw you
Yeah.
walking the streets. I thought that was great because you knew these people and they knew you.
Yes, I enjoyed that so much, and it was kind of a break. Sometimes you're kind of tied up into things, but you have some spare time. So I would just say to the person on the desk, I said, if anybody calls, I'm gone for the day. But I said, you can get me, I'll be on the radio. So I had a portable radio, and the a photographer from the local paper at that time came and took a picture of me sitting in my lawn chair with my radio down here on the lawn beside me, watching a soccer game up Wheelock. Up at Wheelock, that's where they used to play the high school soccer games.
Probably watching one of my sons.
Probably, yeah. They watched a lot of them, and it was funny. They put the thing on the front page. I said, "Oh my gosh!" But it was positive, They're saying the police chief supports the soccer.
No, I think it's very positive because I think the kids know that the chief's there. The chief will know them. If they do anything wrong, the chief's going to know exactly who they are and what trouble they'll get into.
They did well, but I have to say that the Medfield kids were pretty wild at the 60s, as were everybody, all kids everywhere, because, I mean, not every one of them, of course, but a nucleus of them were questioning authority. That was the thing that came along with that Vietnam stuff, and it was pretty tough. And then as time went on, though, they got so good, and the parents overall in Medfield were super. I used to go to meetings and hear people saying, the damn parents, blah, 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 and I say, wait a minute, I don't agree with that. I said, most parents are pretty interested in their kids in my town. Well, your town is different then. Well, I said, maybe so. But when I found when you brought a child in to talk to him, a student usually, you brought him, and the parent that said, who said my kid did that? I'll get a lawyer, you'll be sued. That kid usually got in trouble. But most of the Medfield parents said, Billy, you know something about it? Tell them about it, And usually everything was resolved, and it was great. And I had the philosophy, must tell the parents. I used to get upset with my officers if they had something fairly large. I don't mean a little tiny thing, but fairly large, and then don't tell the parents about it, because I always felt I'd want to know what my kids are doing, so I always thought parents wanted to know. So I would say to the officer, you didn't call the parents last night of that thing? And no, well, I just told them you better not do it again. I said, that's fine, but I said, let the parents know. They'd like to know he did something that serious, Maybe it wasn't serious enough to arrest him or whatever, but it was just kind of serious from a parental aspect,
Yeah, my family has a favorite story about that.
Yeah.
One of my sons, who shall be nameless, because thank God I have 4 of them, so you'll never know which one it is. And it wasn't one of the girls, but one of my boys was, had borrowed, I always would let the kids, if they were good and did their homework and got good marks, they could take my car to school on game day. So they were playing Dover-Sherburne that day. And I went down to the game with a friend, but the boys took my car, and they took a lot of their friends back up to Pine Hill Park. Well, Medfield beat Dover, totally unexpected that year. So my son was driving down Pine Street, and when he was in the shower, when he got home, I got a phone call from you saying, you just saw my son driving like a bat out of hell down Pine Street. So he came out of the shower, and I said, oops, you got caught. And he said, what do you mean? Does he know who I am? And I said, well, he knows it's one of you. And I said, you're on the wanted list. And every place you drive in my car, they're going to watch you. And 2 years later, he asked me to get him off the wanted list. And I still think you could have saved his life and his friends' lives. And you don't know. I think it was the best thing to get caught. I really do.
I had a philosophy of that, to tell you the truth. I always thought that teenagers, when after they've gotten their license and they become comfortable behind the wheel, they don't realize how fast they're going.
I agree.
And they don't realize that they're too close, following too close, and things like that. And I think it's a good thing if they get caught speeding one time.
I do too.
Not necessarily getting a ticket. And I wouldn't do it unless it was a real violent thing. I wouldn't give a ticket, but I would say, you tell your mother and father about this, and have them call me. And if they don't call me, I'm going to call them. So you take the choice.
I didn't know you did that.
I always like to do that for the most part. I would even minor thefts or things, vandalism. I would say, okay, you tell your parents. If you don't tell them, I'm going to call them, and they usually would. They would usually tell their parents as much as they hated it.
Were teenagers more problem for you or young adults or older adults? What age group was the worst?
13, 14, 15
they were the worst?
Seems to be the curious age, and they'd start to do things they wouldn't normally do, maybe break into houses, throw a rock through a window, whatever. Yeah, we had a series of gas caps. You don't have that
Oh,
today,
I remember
probably.
that.
Bunch of gas caps stolen behind the town hall,
Yeah.
where the police station was in the town hall at the time, and the town hall was there, and people would complain to me. Said I go out after work and my gas cap is gone, and there was a big pile of them gone. So I said I gotta figure this out, and I spotted this young fellow, and I said to myself, I bet he's the guy that did it. And he seemed to be lurking around the car, so I called him in the station. I would never lay a hand on a kid or something, but I banged the fist and I said, you know, you took those gas caps, you bring them back to me, and if you don't, you're going to jail for life. And I would tell him.
Oh,
And
jeepers.
he went out of the door and he came back with a bag of about 23 gas caps, put them on the counter there. All right, now they did that with him. And I said, now, what's your choice? You want me to call your parents right now and have them come up here? Or you're going to tell them and they're going to call me? Oh, I'll tell them. So, you know, it worked out. Then I always say to the parents, now, we can take them to court, or we can make a punishment for them, or would you like to handle it? I'll handle it, don't worry, the parents would usually say. And that was good for me. If the parent was adamant that they
Yeah.
were going to handle a punishment, that was fine. I
Did
mean,
the kid clean up his act?
yeah, I don't think we ever had any trouble from him after that at all. He got a pretty. I think that's one of the things I say. Now, if you get caught speeding, it kind of sits in your mind, I think, and
Yeah,
you maybe
I
not.
think it's great.
I mean, some drivers are going to go speed all their life. We know that, but I felt that. I've always felt that if you get caught, if you get nipped in the bud, you know, that it wouldn't happen again, and in the long run, maybe saved a life, you know.
How about drugs and alcohol? Were they a big issue in your tenure?
Oh God,
Those
yeah,
20 years?
that's the one regret I have, is that I couldn't do more to curb it. We had some, you know, we had some court cases and so forth and so on, but we were never able to really do a good job at it. I didn't feel, and it's a pretty hard thing.
Because I was an EMT during a lot of those years that you were
Yeah.
on, and I can remember some of those accidents. It was enough to break your heart. What a waste.
Well, we had undercover people come into town and, you know, get a state trooper or an officer from another department come into town, and they smelled him out somehow. They couldn't seem to fit in with the crowd to get the transactions that you want to make, you know.
I remember when you had teenagers, or people that were supposed to look like teenagers in high school.
One.
That was a long time ago. Remember that?
Yeah, we had one in there, and we that was another instance of good cooperation from the parents. When it broke, that he had some, I don't remember the number exactly now, maybe 19 kids that he had seen with pot, and most of it was really not in the building, but it was in the school area,
Okay.
or just after school. And so what we felt, we didn't really have any good cases. We had one person I think we did bring in for distribution of it, but
Yes, you did.
we brought the parents in from each kid, and the guy that had been in the school as a student was in the police station, and the parent would come in, and I will say it's 19 out of 19. One kid looked everybody in the eye and said he didn't do it. They're wrong. Blah blah blah. And we had he was an officer for us. We had him come in, and he said, "Yes, do you remember that day you were with so and so and so and so?" And that kid was adamant that he didn't do it. So we didn't get very far with him, but we didn't feel we had a necessary thing to go to court.
Mm-hmm.
And one said he didn't do it when the father told him to tell the story. And the kid come in and says, "Oops, I got the wrong name. Yeah, he was involved."
Oh,
But all the rest, the parents said, "We'll handle this." I mean, that was the idea. And the kids all said yes, and the parents were all cooperative. So it was just great the way it worked out. It was we were hoping to get some good suppliers and take them to court. It didn't work out that way.
what year was this? Do you remember?
No, I wouldn't know. Probably the 70s sometime. I wouldn't know what.
I'm trying to remember. My oldest graduated in '74.
No, I think it was probably after that.
Okay, well, I had a series of other kids after that. So probably one of mine was in the high school at that point. The odds would be very good.
Yeah, good. He didn't get caught. Huh? Yeah.
Not that I know of. I never got that call from you. So that was probably the worst part about it. What good part? What good stories do you have? Any fun stories?
Well, I don't know. I thought that when I was the police chief, I had a listed telephone number, which I still do, and people used to call me at all hours, and people, cops from other towns would say, "You're dumb. You have your phone number in the book. We have unlisted numbers." I said, "Well, the couple of headache calls you get though were something you could handle, but the ones that you help out somehow, it's worthwhile, I mean, so I always felt that even though maybe I didn't solve people's problems, I listened to them,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had a parent come in and pretty upset about her daughter got killed in a car accident, and the person that caused it got to get a charge against him, of course, but very little punishment. And they had to do an autopsy on her. They had that's a law in Massachusetts. A death by motor vehicle, they have to have an autopsy, and she was pretty upset about it. So I feel that even though I couldn't do anything for her, she talked to me, and she was pretty upset, and I think she felt better when she walked out of there, and that kind of always made me feel good,
Yeah.
that I thought I listened to the person, and so I always felt I had an open door. I've had people call me up at 2 a.m. and say, "Bill, I got caught for drunken driving." I said, "Yeah, what do you want me to do about it?" "Well, you know me, take care of it." I said, "Hey, you're calling the wrong number, fella. Just deal with the cops there. They'll take care of you."
Yeah, I think you're having kids in town now. That's both a plus and a minus. You can certainly
Well, it's
understand
probably
better
negative.
that mother's feelings because you have a daughter of your own, and you also have a son. But it also has to be a negative.
2 daughters and a son I had, yeah.
Yeah.
No, they were picked on in school because their father was a cop first, and then police chief later. And again, it's a minority. It's like one kid here and one kid there. But I think it kept them from going out for sports somewhat because of the fact that that I had that job.
Oh, that's too bad.
Because I was in the school a lot. The school was quite cooperative. God bless Jack McGrath.
Was he a good one?
He was super.
Wasn't he a good man?
He was a super administrator. He took care of the discipline, and he's the only guy that knew about the undercover guy being in his school. And he called me up and he said, "Hey, Bill, this guy's failing everything." I said, "So what?" He said, "We're going to have to give him Fs." I said, "Well, that's okay. He's only going to be there a few months. So do what you have to do. Do what you do with any other kid." I said, that's what I told him. Yeah, we had the kids, my kids, they'd cry to me every once in a while, "Well, this and that," but they don't tell me too much because I tell them, "Don't tell me anything." But, I know they did have some problems with other kids, pushing them around or saying things that they regretted.
See, I'd be afraid to be mean to the police chief's kid.
Well, my wife would tell you today about the time in Little League when my kid was playing and another kid pitching, and my kid is at bat, and the mother of the pitcher is yelling things about, "Don't let that Chiefs kid get a hit," or some, stupid things like that. And my wife was so mad at her when called her aside and told her what she thought about it.
I bet she did. Nobody's going to mess with your wife.
I mean, things like that kind of hurt you, you say.
Yeah.
You don't mind at the station. They come and tell you what they think of you or whatever, but you want to leave them home alone. I mean, leave your personal life out of it. And it didn't happen with me. I mean, I had firecrackers thrown under my window at 1 or 2 in the morning. I had my car attempted to be torched. It didn't work, fortunately. I had a cruiser parked in front of there one night because I had to leave early in the morning, and it was graffiti all over it.
Wow.
Broken windows.
Did it make you scared?
Beg your pardon?
Didn't it make you and your family scared? Afraid?
Angry what it made me.
Angry. So I've been afraid.
I jumped out of the car and the firecrackers went out and I pursued a car so like a madman, but I didn't catch him. But I had a hunch who it was, and so when I saw him again, I told him that he'd better not come around my house again because I keep a gun there. But you know, so that's a threat I shouldn't be doing. But I got so angry about it. I came home from a New Year's Eve party, and my fence had been hit, and then I found out it wasn't hit once; it was hit twice. So I don't know whether someone told me who they thought it was, and I went after that person. And on New Year's Eve, I never drank. Well, I probably had 2 beers after midnight. That's what my policy was: don't drink during the night because they may be calling you. So maybe after midnight, I have a couple of beers. So I was sober and everything, but I was pretty upset about it. And I went after this fellow, and I was driving up the street, and there he comes down the street with a loud muffler. So I turned around and I caught him he pulled in a store parking lot. And I said to an officer, come over here and give me a ticket book. I'm going to write him up for a loud muffler. I was so mad that I couldn't write the ticket. I'd say, here, you write the ticket. Because I was pretty happy with myself that I didn't show my anger too often. And I'm pretty calm and have a lot of patience. But this made me so mad that he picked on me personally. And what we ended up doing, we've cited him for his loud muffler, but we saw chips of wood on his car, and we made a court case and brought him to court, and got restitution out of it anyway for the new fence. But I was so angry that night. I said, I better not even talk to this guy because I'll say something stupid. So.
Do you ever have any regrets about being a police chief?
No, gosh, no. I missed the job in some respect. As I say, if you ask most police officers why they went on the police department, most likely, the answer would be to help people. It's strange, but this is the background of most police officers. And I felt that while I couldn't help everybody, I did do a lot of it, that people cried on my shoulder, and I listened, and whether I could help them or not, at least I listened, or sometimes I had a remedy for their problems. So I miss that part of it, really. I don't miss the day-to-day and dealing with personnel and so forth, but I have no regrets about being in that job.
Yeah. The police, and I'm thinking of my favorite policeman over the years. Of course, you and I probably have one of the same very favorites.
Bob Norton.
Did I mention that name? Who my kids always thought was probably one of the finest men that ever came. They just were.
Last of the old gentlemen is what I used to call him.
He really was. He really was. But you had some other good ones. What other good ones in the past? You don't need to go on who's on the force now, but in the past, do you have some other favorites?
Well, a guy that was, a couple of guys that were pretty good that didn't stay in Medfield. One was Bob Davis. At one time, we couldn't get any police lists from civil service because of a court case that was pending in Massachusetts. And so we used to be able to put people on and get a permit from civil service and call them a temporary intermittent. We gave them a 6 months appointment. So the selectmen, we would bring someone in that wanted to be on the department. We would bring him in, and the selectman would say, okay.
I remember that.
And we had this fellow named Bob Davis. His father was a police officer in Natick, and he was so sharp. He had a nose for trouble. He was like Bob Norton in a lot of ways, too. He could spot trouble. He just had a nose for it. And see, this is what bothers me when they get the education. They don't want to stop a guy with a broken taillight or stop a guy that doesn't have a sticker or something. And he would stop these people. He'd find stolen cars and all that sort of stuff. And Bob ended up going over to Natick. He got the chance to go to Natick where his father was, so he spent his career in Natick. He married Ken Child's daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that I've been. I might even have been at that wedding. I'm trying to remember. I went to a lot of weddings.
Ken Childs was a selectman, right?
Yeah, with me, yes.
And I forgot her first name, but they lived in Millis, and they've retired to Florida now, I believe.
Childs
have been
going a long time,
and
yeah.
another guy was David Sloan. David Sloan married one of the Rogers girls from over here in Hale Place.
Okay.
Annie maybe, and he came on the department. He was a Vietnam veteran, and he was so sharp. And he wrote traffic tickets. He was a great one for the traffic tickets. And they were not 26 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. They were good tickets, you know. But he was another guy that could spot trouble, and he was very polite and neat. And he ended up going into another field afterwards.
Oh, really?
It was funny because when Bob Norton applied to get on, he came on as a temporary, just like this David Sloan did. And,
I voted for him.
And I asked another guy that I knew, and I figured he knew them both, and I said something about Bob Norton, Dave Sloan. He said, "Oh, Bob Norton won't stay long. He's a tree man," and he goes blah blah blah. David Sloan's the guy. He'll stay. Well, he got it wrong. It was backwards. So David stayed 6 months or something, and then he left. And Bobby stayed for his life until, unfortunately, died. Yeah.
No, you had some good ones, though.
Oh yeah. There's lots of them. Yeah. Yeah, we had, and different people bring different things to the table when they work. Some have a strength in one thing, and some have a strength in the other. But you try to tell them to use compassion and don't bring yourself down to the level. The guy's calling you all the dirty names. Don't call them the dirty names back because it brings you to their level. And so, most of the guys are pretty good with that. We had to. I had to tell some of them at the start. But it's sometimes it's hard to keep your temper from getting the best of you.
I would think so.
And I usually was able to walk away and keep my temper down. So, but I really don't have much of a temper.
What were the saddest things? Is it like suicide and sudden death, that kind of thing? Were they the saddest parts of your job?
Oh, that was the toughest. I always said there were two tough things in the job. One was shooting an animal, killing an animal that you might have had to do it, and the other was telling someone their loved one died. I had to do that quite often.
You asked me to go with you for one of them.
I had you go with
Yeah.
me? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that. But I had Bob Wood go with me too. But that was tough. And you knock on the door at 2 or 3 in the morning, and the guy comes to the door, and you say, "Would you get your wife?" And he knows damn well the police chief's not coming in for a social visit. In fact, I had to tell Medfield people that they got killed in some other town too, so
I'm sure.
that irked the heck out of me one day. A fellow from Bellingham, I believe it was, got killed in a car accident, so I called the Bellingham police to tell them. And you know what they did? They went down to the house and said, "Call the Medfield police."
Oh.
Now that wasn't right.
No, that isn't. It's
Somebody's
not right.
got to tell them face to face.
Yeah, I would think so too. As hard as it is to do, though.
I have told persons on the phone before because they call up and, is he dead? What am I going to do? Lie? I have to say yes.
Yeah.
I've done that.
That would be a hideous part of your job.
Yeah, I couldn't do anything else. But as I say, I don't like to say things are going to be okay when they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. All kind of bad things, but there's some good things too. You said.
Oh yeah. Well, the good outweighed the bad.
So the most satisfying aspect of your job was being able to help people. I'm assuming from the way you're talking about it.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so. And we were on the forefront of a program that I don't even know if it exists anymore because I've been retired 25 years. But there was a program came up in probably the 80s, I think, with a district attorney. I think it was with federal money. They called it the diversion program. So the way it worked, if say you had a kid breaking windows, so you took him into court for malicious destruction of property, you took him down to court, and if the kid and his parents agreed, instead of going before the judge, you'd go into this diversion program. And they had personnel down there at the court that would take over and do an interview and so forth. And then we didn't see them anymore for a while. But what they did with them was we had them working at the swim pond, at the youth center, maybe sometimes for the police department or the highway department. Mm-hmm. And they had to work a certain number of days or hours, and if there was a restitution, they had to make that though. I mean, like if there was a monetary thing, you broke windows worth $100, they had to pay up that $100 one way or another, parents or somebody. But as far as court, they never appeared in the court, and so it worked out great. We had a lot of kids through that program. We had them for breaking into houses. I mean, these are all kids probably between 13 and 16. And breaking into houses, sometimes a serious motor vehicle thing, and some mostly breaking into houses or vandalism or that type of thing.
And did it pay off? Did the program make them pretty much on a straight line
Oh,
after?
yeah. It worked out good. I think it worked out real good. And of course, a kid that's in that program, his peers know what the hell he's doing there.
Well, that's true too. That is true.
So he's a little, he doesn't like it that his friends see him doing,
Yeah.
sweeping the street or working down the swim pond, and
That
they
would
know
be-
why he's there, because the town knew what all the kids were doing, so they didn't like it. So it usually, and of course they counseled them if they had a family program, if there was a dysfunctional family or some such thing as that. The DA's people, they were counselors, they were professionals, and they would try to straighten that aspect of his life out, There might have been alcoholism in the family, they'd try to help to get that straightened away or something like that. But it worked real well. I was really happy with that program. It went on for a lot of years, and I don't know whatever happened to it afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know either. I do remember the program, but I'm not sure whether there's any sign of it still today.
I don't know. We used to say we always had our own diversionary program where we called the parents and say, "You want to handle this?" And they said yes. But these were more serious incidences, but it still was handled in a good manner because. Truthfully, juveniles don't get a heck of a lot of punishment in the courts. They can't do a lot unless it's a murder thing or rape or something. But these other things, that breaking into houses, breaking windows, and vandalism of various places, so they don't get much out of it. So this was a good program. It was hands-on, one-on-one. These people, and the other one that was involved with that was our outreach worker. We always had some good outreach workers in Medfield.
We have.
And they were involved too. As soon as they went into the program, the DA's people would contact the outreach worker, and they'd be working together on it. So it was really a good program.
I hope it pays off. I really do.
It did at the time. It paid off well because these kids, got a lesson in life and didn't do it again. Now, one of the things you want to know, a pleasant event. I had a house break.
Oh, that's fun.
I had a house break
This
one
is a
time when
pleasant
I was. That was before I was the chief.
Oh, okay.
Come to think of it, I think I was a sergeant at the time, and we figured out there was a part-time officer working with me, and we figured out who did this. So we went after the guy, and the guy was gone. His mother and him lived alone, and he was gone. And she said he's in Boston somewhere. He's got a friend in there. So we called the Boston police and told them we had a warrant for this kid, and he was probably 15. So they picked him up. We told them where to look, and they picked him up. We went in and got him, brought him down to Dedham Court, and we had a super judge down there at the time. And so the judge said, "What are we going to do with this guy?" And I said, "Well, we got severe restitution involved here, Judge." And he said, what do you mean? I said, "Well, there's a very ornate ring." I said, "It's priceless." I said, "This could be worth thousands of dollars." He said, "I'm not going to go by that." He said, "It's out of date and all that stuff. I can't do that." He said, "Well, we're going to continue this till Monday. And I'm not going to force him to make $5,000 restitution or something like that." So we said to the kid, "Do you know where that ring is?" He said, "Yeah, I pawned it for $30. Can you get it back if we give you $30? He said, "Yeah." So we drove him into Boston. It wasn't a pawn shop.
This is a small town police force.
Yeah, this is the south end of Boston. We took the chance. We gave the kid $30. He went into this downstairs apartment, and he came back out with the ring. So we brought the kid back to his mother. We brought the ring up to the lady. She fell, and she got so excited with tears and everything. I bumped into her about 2 months ago, And she said, "See what I have on?" And she
Oh, my
showed me the
God.
ring.
It meant that
I
much.
said, "That was one of the happiest days of my life."
bet
I
it
said,
was.
"When I could give you that ring back." And she said, "It was one of the happiest days of my life." The rest of the stuff in the house she didn't care about, but that ring was bothering her. It was a grandmother's, hand-me-down.
Yeah.
But those things make you real happy.
So
when
what
you-
happened to the kid? Did he straighten up?
Well, we didn't see anything more from him, but I think him and his mother moved out of town.
you don't know?
Not too many moons after that, so I don't really know. We never had any trouble with him again, that I know of. I think that was before diversion. See, so he had to go to the court system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, at least one good story.
Yeah, that's good when you can. This is another thing that I always felt, that you got to make the person whole if you can. If someone tears up your shrubs, and it might have been a monetary thing of $500 or something, but we got to get that right somehow. Whether they make the restitution or they work for it to pay for it or something, and that always was something that I felt that should come out is get the restitution, get the person satisfied. If this mailbox was broken, get that satisfied. We had kids break something like 15 mailboxes with bats.
Wow.
And one of the officers caught them. We took them to court. We tried to deal with them and say, we'll take it to each owner, and you can make restitution or get them a new mailbox or whatever. And all three of them, nope, didn't do it. We had them red-handed. We had the bat. We had the paint scrapings of the mailbox. Went to a long trial. I had 14 people come to court and testify. These are Medfield residents, they had things to do besides go to court.
Sure.
And because, the court is delay. And the judge found them guilty and made them make restitution plus so much a fine. They went, and so they appealed it, and it went to another court, and that judge there decided that the paper was typed out wrong.
Jeepers.
It didn't have the word malicious in there or some such thing. Oh my God!
And
So
he
it got
dismissed
thrown
it?
out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it would have been so simple when I offered them to start with the three of them, just to go and take care of everybody,
Yeah.
and it would have been simple. It would have taken them a few bucks and a few hours. And this way, we spent hours in court, big long trial.
And the taxpayers paid.
Yeah.
Wow. But other than that, there are a lot of mostly good memories then,
Oh yeah.
and no regrets.
No. Regrets I couldn't do more to help more people. That's all. I always felt that was my main thing. The school, high school, would every once in a while have someone assigned to do an interview of a town official. So they would come in and they would interview me, and they'd say, "What's your main job?" I said, "I'm the complaint department." Everything that goes down the pike here, the police department is. I'm the guy that they come and complain about, whether it's the officer's conduct or whether it's the speed limit or it's they're going too fast on my street or whatever it is.
It's all your fault.
Well, I was the complaint department, yeah. We used to get complaints, the selectmen would get the complaints, and you're probably involved with that from time to time, that the selectmen
30
would get
years-
complaints of every street in town, speeding.
Absolutely.
And the strange thing would happen a lot. We'd run the radar on that street, and the people on that street, especially if it was a long street, they would be coming by speeding.
That's the one I remember, the Causeway Street issue.
Causeway was one
Remember
of them.
that? And
Yeah.
the first person you caught was a guy that lived on Causeway Street.
Yeah, I was out of town at that
And he
time.
called me, he said, I wanted them to survey the street and stop the speeders, but I didn't want them to bother me. And I just thought, this is the way the world is.
Yeah.
Everybody else is wrong, but I'm fine. But I do remember that very much.
Yeah, that happened a lot. I mean, more than you think.
So that's the only one I knew personally, and I thought that cracked me up. I didn't mean me. But listen, Bill, thank you so much for coming to talk to us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
This is our last edition of Medfield People for this month, but we'll be doing other people. So if any of you out there have an idea of anybody you'd like to see interviewed on Medfield TV, my email is annmedfield@verizon.net. And I would be more than happy to respond and see who else we can get. I want to get people that live in Medfield that have done things in Medfield, whether it's fun things or silly things or hardworking things like Bill Mann here. But thank you all for watching Medfield People.
Hi, I'm Bob McGuire, and you're watching Medfield.tv.
Access to our community.